This is StoryRobot. Welcome to r/pettyrevenge. Our first story of today is, BP server demands a better tip. A couple months back, my boyfriend and I went out for drinks one night at this cool little speakeasy in Montreal. It's actually quite an interesting place. You come in through a nondescript entrance and the place has a really nice vibe going on once you get inside. Note, this is one of those bars where the server comes to your table and serves the drinks rather than one where you order at the bar and take the drinks back yourself. We were seated at our table by the server. We ordered a couple cocktails. And then a couple more, and then a couple more after that. Each time we had to order, my boyfriend or I would have to go fetch the server so he would take our order or go up to the bar, order, and then bring the drinks back ourselves. Then, when it came time for the bill, I went up again so he would come to our table. He came and thought we were going to order again despite me clearly asking for the bill when I went up. So, he went back to get the card machine and it was another 10 minutes before he was back. At this point, I was quite ticked off at the not-so-great service and was debating whether or not I should tip him. The screen had an option for 10%, 15%, 20% or other. I decided to just leave 10% as I wanted to avoid an argument with the server. Montreal service employees are pretty beep notorious when it comes to the expectation of tips. Now, he prints out the receipt and takes a look at it and sees I left 10%. He then asks if we had a nice evening, to which my boyfriend responded that we did. We both thought it was just a standard question servers ask, so we didn't bother telling him about the poor service received, especially because it wouldn't really make a difference at this point. The guy then says, "Oh, well, if you had such a nice time, then you should have left at least a 15% tip. Because, in Canada, it's customary to leave a minimum 15% when the service is good." I'm guessing the reason he felt the need to outline that's how it is in Canada is because I'm a brown guy. Now comes the petty part. I responded, "Oh, I didn't know, why don't you cancel this bill and redo it so I can tip you properly?" He said, "Sure thing, just give me a second because the manager has to approve bill cancellations." Again, we waited a good 10 minutes for him to come back with the new bill. I was happy to wait, though, because once he came back, I put in the PIN and then selected the other option for tip and left him 0%. He printed out the receipt and his look of disbelief was well worth it. We got up and my white Canadian boyfriend said, "Our only tip for you is to give better service and not be so much of an beep hole." In Canada, we don't really like beep holes. Our second story of today is, ruining a wedding reception for fun and profit. When I was 13, so 8 years ago, my dad remarried, after divorcing my mom 4 years before. Before the divorce, his fiancée had been his mistress. My mom is completely better off without him, and ignoring the fact that I wouldn't exist, I don't think she should have married him in the first place. Even if I think my parents weren't a good match, that's no excuse to cheat on your wife. This woman was beeping vile in all sorts of ways. She constantly belittled me, made fun of the fact I needed to take pills for my mental illness despite being a beeping pharmacist. I don't get it either, and was generally awful to me and my siblings. But she was a decade younger than my dad and reasonably hot, so he didn't give a beep how she treated us. The one time he actually listened to us about her is when they were thinking of having a baby and my brother said he'd ask our mom to sue for full custody of us if they did. So anyway, they got married. I was a bridesmaid, cause that beep had no real friends. The other two bridesmaids were her sister and my sister. My brother was the best man, cause she didn't like my dad's best friend. He and my dad still don't talk to this day, even though the guy was like an uncle to me as a little kid. It was a wedding, everything went normally. But at the beginning of the reception, before the first dance, we were taking pictures in front of a chocolate fountain, looking like the happy family we never were and would never be. I'm on the autism spectrum, and have a problem maintaining eye contact. This extends to looking at a camera. So when we had to retake a photo because I wasn't looking, she leans down and whispers something in my ear. I'm not going to repeat it, but it involved the R word. I don't like saying it. Anyway, I kind of snapped, and decided she was going to pay for this. No one noticed, or at least no one called me out, when I started slowly moving the chocolate fountain towards the edge of the table. When it got to the edge, it makes contact with the back of that pure white wedding dress and slowly drips down. By the time she notices, it looks like she's beep herself. But for all anyone else knows, this was an accident. She has no spare dress, and that stain is not coming out. So first dance, cutting the cake, speeches, everything, this woman has what looks like a beep stain on the back of her dress. It was a small revenge, but it was so worth it. What's supposed to be the happiest day of this stupid woman's life, and she's going to remember that stain, every time she thinks about it. They never did get the stain out. And nobody knew it was me. Until now, I guess. Hi family, if you're reading this. Susie, you're a beep and you deserved that chocolate stain. Our third story of today is, girl does 0% of the work on a huge project and gets 0% of the credit. This story takes place my third year of college. I was taking a class where the entire grade was determined by a semester-long final project. We were supposed to be in groups of 3 on the project, but the third guy in our group had more sense than me and bailed early. This left just me and lazy girl hereafter known as LG. LG didn't do anything the entire semester. I would ask her to work on pieces of the project, but she always had an excuse for why it wasn't done yet, or in her case started. Now I didn't want any confrontation with this girl, as she was my friend at the time, but I finally lost it one night towards the end of the semester. I'd asked her to meet at my house to work on the project, but something important came up. Fed up with this one-sided partnership, I decided to air my woes at the local bars. And guess who I run into? An LG and her boyfriend drinking. She made up some bull beep excuse and I made a plan. I powered through the entire assignment, except for the conclusion which I asked LG to finish. I held out exactly zero hope that she would finish this section, so I quickly finished it myself and turned in my project with a little note to the teacher. The note detailed how I had done literally everything for the project and that despite my best efforts, I could not get LG to contribute. I said that I was turning in my version and that our conclusions section may differ as I'd asked her to actually do that part herself. So here's a little tidbit about our final projects, we each had to turn one in. LG here not only didn't do the conclusion, she didn't turn in a project at all. She tried calling and beeping at me for not giving her credit, to which I went off on her for not doing beep on the entire project. I mentioned how I even gave her the opportunity to turn in my work for a grade if she'd only do one thing. She hung up after that, and that was the last time we spoke. Our last story of today is, she kept stealing my washing powder so I gave her dye. I don't mind when my roommates borrow my stuff. We've all been there. All I ask is that they replace what they take. You drink my milk? Just buy me a new milk. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, my roommate doesn't seem to get this. She keeps taking my stuff, and when I ask her to please replace everything she takes, she'll buy one new thing and forget to do it the next time despite having more money than me. I finally snapped when I wanted to wash my clothes but only found an empty box that used to contain my washing powder. I don't buy fancy or expensive stuff and I don't care about brands. After using the last of my powder a week earlier, she could literally have bought the cheapest no-brand powder in the world and I would have been fine. I just snapped. I had told her over and over to not use my washing powder if she wasn't going to replace it, and I just had enough. I bought a new box of washing powder, some Dylan machine dye, mixed it with a bit of the washing powder and dumped it into the old box. When the dye is dry it looks like washing powder, especially if you're not expecting it. I took my new box of washing powder to my room and waited. A week later, I came home from work and saw her laundry hanging outside, all with a mysterious pink color. She stomped up to me and demanded to know what I had done. I told her I was going to dye my own clothes and someone had told me the shade would be lighter if I mixed it with powder, then asked her why she had used it when it had clearly been in a box with my name on it when I had told her not to use it because she never replaced it. I don't think she believed me, but she finally got the message. She almost never takes my stuff, and when she does she's quick to replace it. Thank you for watching. Error. Problem detected. Not enough subscribers. Please subscribe, like and comment.